You know, when we think about healthy aging, what's the first piece of advice we always hear? Stay active, go for a walk. It seems like the perfect, safest solution, right? But what if I told you that daily walk, the very thing so many of us rely on, might actually be sending our bodies a dangerously misleading message?
Now, take a look at this quote. A man named Old Liang said this to his friend, who was a really dedicated daily walker. It sounds a little harsh, maybe a bit confusing, but trust me, by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what he meant and why it is so important.
So, what does that even mean to train for your life? Not just for your cardio, not just for your lungs, but for your life itself. Well, the answer lies in the really surprising story of another man, old Zhao. He thought he was doing everything right, but his body was telling him a completely different and frankly, a much scarier story.
And this brings us to something called the exerciser's paradox. It's this weird, confusing reality where you're putting in the time, you're being consistent, but you're just not getting the results you expect. In fact, things might even be getting a little bit worse. Okay, so let's talk about old Zhao. This guy was the definition of consistency. At 67 years old, every single day, rain or shine, he was out there for a 40-minute fast walk. He was convinced that more walking was the absolute key to staying healthy. But here's the paradox. Despite all that effort, he started feeling weaker, colder, and way less steady on his feet. It just didn't make any sense. And then he had his wake-up call. It happened in the kitchen. He was just carrying a bowl of soup. His foot slipped a little, and he went to catch his balance, like you do. But his legs felt like they were a step behind his brain. He almost went down hard. And in that moment, the truly terrifying part wasn't almost falling. It was the sudden, cold realization that his own body wasn't really listening to him anymore. That scary moment led him to a pretty profound discovery, one that is really the core of what we're talking about today. He figured out there's a huge difference between simply moving your body and actively using force. Okay, let's really break this down because the two signals we send our bodies are completely different. Moving, like old Ja's daily walk, is mostly on autopilot, right? It's habitual, it relies on rhythm and momentum, it's great for your circulation for sure, but there's very little conscious brain power involved. Now, using force, that's different. It's intentional. It's about working against some kind of resistance. And that is the signal that tells your body to maintain its structure, its muscle. It demands high brain involvement. And that was old Zal's huge realization. For years, the only message he was sending his body was, hey, all I need you to do is walk for 40 minutes. And his body, being incredibly smart and efficient, said, okay, got it. We'll just maintain the absolute bare minimum needed for that one task. It started trimming away everything else. Now, this is a really crucial idea. As we age, our body isn't failing us. It's not making a mistake. It is making a cold, hard, rational choice based on the signals you send it. You can think of it like this. Your body has an internal operating system, a resource manager. Its whole job is to run efficiently. In traditional terms, this is called the qi mechanism. And this system is constantly making decisions about what to keep and what to get rid of based on one simple, relentless question. Is this thing actually being used? And the logic is just brutally simple. Use it, or the system will lose it. If you are constantly sending signals that a structure, especially muscle, is needed to overcome resistance, the system says, okay, we need this, keep it online. If you don't send that signal, the system rationally decides, hey, this is an expensive, high-maintenance asset we're not using. Let's get rid of it. So how does the system lose it? Well, this part is pretty wild. It's not just decay. It's an active recycling process. When a muscle is flagged as unnecessary, the system literally begins to break down that valuable protein into amino acids. Any extra is then turned into a waste product called urea, which is then simply flushed out of your body through your urine. Your strength is literally being flushed away. And this whole process, this active recycling of muscle, leads directly to the most catastrophic, yet totally preventable event for older adults. This is why for so many people, falls aren't really accidents. They're predictable outcomes of a system that's been given the wrong instructions. This is such a critical distinction to make. We spend so much time worrying about our bone density, which is important, but it's only half the battle. Your bones might decide how badly you get hurt after you've already hit the ground, but it's your muscles, your strength, your stability, your reaction time that decide whether you lose your balance and fall in the first place.
And the stakes here are incredibly high. This number, 20 to 30%, represents the 1-year mortality rate for seniors after they suffer a hip fracture from a fall. This isn't just about a broken bone. For many, it's the trigger for a rapid and often irreversible decline.
Just look at how this happens. It's a cascade effect. It starts quietly with losing muscle function. That leads to poor stability and slow reactions. Then the fall happens. But the real disaster is step 4. The bed rest that's required causes a catastrophic and super fast loss of even more muscle, which just opens the floodgates to complications like pneumonia and blood clots. It is a truly vicious cycle. Okay, that was the bad news. The really, really good news is that none of this is inevitable. You have the power to change the signals you're sending to your body. So, how do you keep your whole system fully online?
Here's the key mindset shift. The goal, especially as you get older, isn't about becoming a powerlifter or building huge muscles. It's much simpler. It's about maintaining the pathway. It's about keeping that critical brain-to-muscle connection active, online, and fully functional. It's about constantly reminding your body, hey, I still need this stuff. And here are 3 incredibly simple principles to do exactly that. First, resist gravity. A perfect example, standing up from a chair without pushing off with your hands. That simple act is a clear, powerful signal. Second, use low-intensity resistance. You don't need heavy weights. Just gently pushing, pulling, or pressing against something is enough to send the right message. And third, awaken that brain-body link. Do these movements with intention. Actually, feel the muscles working.
And that brings us right back to the central question. It's the one I really want to leave you with today. Think about your own daily routine. Can you still truly mobilize your body? Consciously command it to be stable, to be strong, to react quickly? Or are you just moving it, going through the motions out of habit? The answer to that question could literally change how you train for the rest of your life.